Exactly. He's put 30 plus. I mean, come on. See, listen, they have no shot without him.
Yeah.
They have, and they're not going to develop Shamar Stewart the way they want to without him.
See, but I think that point and then your perspective is the most interesting part of the conversation. Because from the front office perspective, are you sitting there going and banking on he won't sit out 2, 3, 4 games? Like, we know this guy, we know his character. It's one of the reasons why we would be willing to pay him a certain amount of money.
They know he'll sit out.
See, I just wouldn't want, like guys, like, to be quite honest with you, Dan, guys like that, I wouldn't even want to play that chicken game. I wouldn't want to play that game.
I agree.
Because to me, it just feels wrong. It's like, you've done everything I've asked you to do.
Yeah. Just do right by the guy.
Yeah. There's always like that point, right, in the negotiation where you kind of give in something that you didn't want, but you don't give everything. And as a player, right, you get a lot of what you want, but maybe not everything. That's the sweet spot, right? Sure. So since he's got to budge some a little bit here, otherwise your defense is going to stink. It just is.
When you're talking about projecting him sitting out, I want to say it's July 26th. There is so much time between now and then. There is so much time for these two sides to figure out a deal, find a way to get it done, and that would be what I would think would happen at some point. That they'll get a deal done.
Yeah.
Right. He said these things have a way of working themselves out.
Of course they do.
I have a feeling this will work itself out, which is kind of like, I have a feeling I'll give in a little bit.
I have a feeling I'm going to let this work out.
Yeah.
All right, there's other deals that aren't done. We'll talk about Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin, and more a little bit later on in the show. And a reminder that we are live at all of these camps as we go around today. So we'll go to the Dolphins soon. You see Tyreek Hill getting ready to go out there. He's talked about more accountability with his teammates. Tua Tagovailoa saying they're working on actually rehabbing their relationship a little bit. We'll see them live on the field, see what that connection looks like in just a little bit as we continue on here. Here's more of our schedule. We just showed you the Dolphins. That's a little cheat sheet. That's where we're going next. But later on in the day, the Cowboys, you see them at 2:30 p.m. That'll be on ABC. Don't miss that. You'll see this really interesting quarterback battle there. We've heard a lot about Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. Of course, you've got everything going on with Shedeur Sanders as well, and we'll keep an eye on what Dylan Gabriel is doing too. So I believe we're going to stay here for just a minute. Let me know if that's what we're doing. Chanel, our producer. Okay, we're staying here. So when you look at this quarterback battle, Field, we'll start with you. You got a lot of familiarity with the guys they drafted, and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Seems like the veterans, though, have a leg up.
Are we going optimist or are we going sort of like wet blanket?
What do you want to be today?
I want reality. I want reality. I don't know
Real
talk. What you got?
Okay. This is reality. I was talking with Dan before our show started today, and I was noting that, on paper, this 2026 NFL draft class for quarterbacks looks very, very strong. We got strength in numbers, and we get some real star power at the top. There's a part of me that thinks very strongly that we'll talk about this Browns quarterback battle as much as anything other than maybe Micah Parsons' contract dispute, depending on how long that lasts for the next 4.5, 5 weeks. There's a party that also thinks that maybe the answer to the Browns quarterback situation is none. It's none of the 4 above, right? It's that they'll patch it together for a year. They have their own first-round pick next year and the Jaguars' first-round pick next year. That maybe the most important takeaway from all of this is that if none of them separates themselves, we have our eyes on quarterbacks, a la maybe Arch Manning and Sam Levitt and Lenore Sellers and others who are available, potentially Cade Klubnik from Clemson.
What, Dan?
Okay,
you're looking at something. Somebody looks small.
Gabriel looks small next to Joe Flacco. Now, Joe's 6'5", 6'6", 240. Here's my thing. If the answer's none, you better know that clearly it's neither of those rookies.
Correct. I agree.
And we've been asked this whole offseason, what should be the plan? Joe Flacco, for me, it wouldn't be. I know who Joe is. He's a good player. Joe is going to get us to, if I'm in Cleveland, 8 and 9, and we're not going to be in control of what we do with one of those in totality or those 2 first-round picks next year. I would be doing everything to see if Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders could be a starting quarterback for me to start this year, and then see if we struggle. Because then we got a real shot for a quick retool next year.
But that's what this year is about. Field is just saying the possibility exists that none of these guys are it. But there also is the possibility that one of the guys isn't.
But Shefty, my point is this. We know Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett aren't it. We know that. As far as like the long-term starting quarterback guy, we know that.
Hold on.
Those two guys.
Kenny Pickett, and I'm not saying the chances are you're absolutely right. But what if Kenny Pickett is Baker Mayfield? What if Kenny Pickett is Sam Darnold? What if Kenny Pickett, who was a first-round draft, develops, like, I understand what you're saying. He's bounced around. But there have been other former first-round picks that have bounced around that later on have had something of a resurgence. Sure. The chances are it won't happen. I got it.
Right.
But that's what this year is about. Like, let's see what he can do for Kevin Stefanski and see if there's any hope to rebound him to the type of talent and potential he has. Okay, he can't do it, no problem. Right. We know what Joe Flacco is. You got to find out what the two are. You got to get some answers on these quarterbacks, and it could be that none of them are the answers, but that's why it is the most interesting room, in my mind, in the NFL this summer, the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, with those four guys, and Deshaun Watson not even mentioned in the conversation.
Right. Yeah. Lewis, the other thing about this is we've heard that Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco kind of splitting first-team reps. We'll keep an eye on today as you're looking at live practice right now, who actually takes the first-team reps. How do you get enough reps for these guys?
You don't.
Right.
That's the problem. See that's where, like, a lot of this it's just flapping your jaws and just talking here when we're saying, well, they got to find out. Quite honestly, you don't have time to find out in a nice, fair, like, balanced, organic way, because you're trying to get ready to, like, play the season, right? So there's only so many reps to go around, and it's not like practices are the same way they used to be when I played. I mean, these guys basically practice once a day, okay? And so, I mean, it's like you don't have enough reps. And see, here's the thing, like, to me, it feels so much like they've already almost, like, kind of boxed themselves into the fact that, look, we have so much draft capital a year from now that we don't really, you know what, if it works out, if we struck gold, great. If we don't, that's fine, because you know what, we have all this draft capital next year, and one of those guys next year is bound to be a franchise quarterback. So, hey, it is what it is. And you know what's interesting? Look, the Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders thing, I was just talking about this just the other day on radio. The front office, having been in this situation for 11 years, you really think that the front office is sitting there going, look, we drafted Dylan in the 3rd, we drafted Shedeur in the 5th. Do you really think they want to see the 5th round kind of, like, beat out the 1st round guy? I mean, the 3rd round guy? No, hell no, they don't want that to happen because it makes them look bad. Right. It's like, well, why didn't you pick them the opposite way? So there's so many biases that they're going to have to work through, and then they don't have a whole lot of reps to go around. This is a much tougher situation than it looks like.
But if Shedeur outplays Dylan Gabriel, then that's the way it is. Like, then the 5 beats out the 3.
True, if he gets enough reps in time to beat out the 3rd round.
It's not like either one is a 1. It's a 5 and a 3 with 2 ones on deck.
Yeah, that sounds great as we're sitting here. That sounds great. He needs enough reps to do that too, though, Adam. Well, he needs enough time to do that.
4 guys, that's a problem.
Exactly. That's where I'm saying, like, this is not a very easy situation.
With 4 guys practicing and reps kind of being minimal for all of them, it makes you feel like, and maybe this is a misread, Jeff, you can probably correct me, makes you feel like there's a pretty decent chance that Joe Flacco or maybe Kenny Pickett, those are the 2 likeliest week 1 starters. Joe Flacco, he's had a million practices, he's been in this system previously, he's familiar, he's probably the favorite to start in week 1. And then it kind of feels like this. Listen, if they start 4-1 with Joe Flacco, and I don't know how likely that is, he'll keep on playing. But you just work your way through the order, right? You just, Joe Flacco plays, and if you struggle, Kenny Pickett's turn, and just keep going. You know what don't you like about that?
The head coach and the general manager got to win, though. Like, that seat is not cold, and they know that. They know that, and so and I think highly of both of them.
Yeah.
But they can't go through another season of like.
They've been piecing that together.
If that's the case.
They have the draft capital, and again, when you're talking about the rookie quarterback starting, point I want to make, if you're not a first-round draft pick, how many times have we seen a mid-round pick come on in his rookie year of camp and win a starting job? The times I can remember. Russell Wilson as a 3rd-round pick when he shined in the summer and clearly outplayed Matt Flynn and Charlie Whitehurst and Dak Prescott. Those are the 2 that I remember. Both guys lit it up in the summer. Now, we may see Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, despite the lack of reps. We may see one of them come out and light it up. But in my mind, that's what it takes when you're a middle-round pick to win a starting job you have to
You got to leave no doubt.
clearly outplay the competition.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
All right, so obviously we're going to keep talking about this Browns quarterback situation. It's crazy. They had a really good running back draft. Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson. I like those two picks. They still got Miles. Are with their coaching staff. John Morton takes over for Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. Kelvin Shepard takes over for Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator. And with how good their offense was, defense was a focus this offseason, adding cornerbacks DJ Reed, Avonte Maddox, as well as defensive tackle Roy Lewis. With their first-round pick, they took D-tackle Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. So we're going to go to live footage of their practice in just a little bit. We'll see them right now on the field. Dan, what are you thinking about the coordinator change and how much that really will make a difference on offense? Let's start there, and then we'll move to the defensive side.
It'll make a big difference. I think Detroit is one of those prime cases that they will be a very different, and I think better football team in November and December than the first part of what we see in September. This new offensive coordinator's got to figure out who this team is, and this team has to figure out who this offensive coordinator is. A lot of times we talk about play calling, and then we only focus it on that individual play caller. But it's so much more connected than that. And so Johnny Morton comes over, and he's got to figure out, like, who's this offensive line without Frank Ragnow? You know, Tate Ratledge, he's not going to be who he is in September, who he'll be in November. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get better if that's going to be the guy. So he's got to figure out who this offense is as this season goes on. Ben Johnson knew exactly where they were because it was a couple years in. So I just think that the expectations for this football team should still be ridiculously high, but for their fans, give them till, November-ish to really figure out how Super Bowl contender you actually are.
Tate Ratledge, a lot of experience at Georgia, but now filling that void at center. How do you expect him to play there?
Yeah, he's a college guard, so he's got experience playing near the center spot, but hasn't played it much, at least not recently. I thought this player was terrific during his 4 years at Georgia. This was a guy who actually had that tightrope surgery on his ankle in the middle of the year last year and came back and I thought somehow looked better during the concluding weeks of Georgia's season. Super experienced, great athlete. I'm not concerned about the eventual transition to the NFL, but you're putting a lot on the plate because you're not replacing some average center. You're replacing Frank Ragnow, who is arguably, not just one of the best, but probably the toughest player on this team. There's some legendary stories about what he brought to the table for the interior of the offensive line. Perhaps one of the biggest retentions for this team this offseason was Hank Fraley, their offensive line coach. Played a long time in this league, had a lot of suitors. I think Ben Johnson would have loved to have had him.